Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome back finally to another edition of God Honest Truth live stream. And tonight we're not going to be having a drosh per se or teaching. It's just going to be the main service with the liturgy, Torah portion, half Torah portion, and Brit Hadashah portion like we always do. And then after that, it's just going to be a little bit of discussion and testimony of what we went through during this whole Hurricane Helene mess and disaster that went on in Western North Carolina here, and also a little bit about those in Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee that were also affected, but mainly just about our own personal experience and what we learned. So if you don't want to stay tuned for that, that's fine, I understand, but that's what's going to be on the menu for tonight. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, we would like to say shalom and welcome. We are God Honest Truth, and we are a Messianic ministry that is based out of Western North Carolina. You can find out more about us by going to www.godhonesttruth.com. There you can find our social media links, our video and audio podcasting links, resources to help you in your learning of Hebrew and Greek, audio Bibles, and so much more. So go check it out today at godhonesttruth.com. And if you ever need to contact us, the best way to do that is going to be through our email at team@godhonesttruth.com. So with all that being said, who we are, what's going to be going on tonight, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to tonight's liturgy. Kol balevav Panima Nefesh Yehudi Omiya Ufate Misrak Kadima Ayin Lezion Sophia Olo Avda Tikvatenu Atikva Bashnut Alpaim Lahiotam Kovshi Behartzenu Eretz Zion Verushalayim Lahiotam Kovshi Behartzenu Eretz Zion Verushalayim. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malhuto, Leolam Waed. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is for eternity. And you shall love Yahweh your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and upon your gates. So in the way of announcements this week, once again, please continue to be in prayer for the entire nation of Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces, and all those who still may be in a hostage situation. And like you may have noticed, we have been gone for a while, and if you have not kept up with the updates that we have tried to put out, at least those few that we did put out, we have been gone because Hurricane Helene hit our area on September 27th, and that was the night we were supposed to go live with a Sukkot teaching, but knocked out power, it knocked out internet, it even knocked out cell towers. So I couldn't even use a mobile phone to do a live stream with. But yeah, we're back now. We came back, or got our power back last Wednesday, and we've been trying to get the house back in order, trying to get everything caught up. and get back in the swing of things. So hopefully now, starting from this point on, we will be doing just that. So be expecting more to come. As long as more disaster doesn't hit, we should be right here every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we've tried to rework the episode schedule based on the calendar and what has happened and stuff like that. Tonight, we're just going to be doing a general testimony and talking about what happened during this whole disaster thing and some of the things that we have learned. Next week, we are already scheduled to be off next week. It was already pre-planned and stuff, so we decided just to go ahead and continue that with what was already planned. So next week, there will not be a stream, but as long as everything holds up, there will be those Torah portions that are coming out like we do every week, as long as we have the power internet to do so. And then after that, starting in November, we're going to be going back to our Godhead series, starting with an episode on the phrase used in Scripture, son or sons of God, what that means, various places that it occurs, all that good stuff. Now, if you haven't watched the previous episodes in the Godhead series, we would invite you to go back and do so that you would be caught up in time for the next episode in the series coming up on November 1st. And here is your list of upcoming feast days and Moedims for about the next year or so. We did not get this edited correctly the way it's supposed to be. So our next upcoming feast day or Moedim is going to be Hanukkah, which starts on December 25th at sunset and runs through January 2nd at sunset. Hopefully, all of you out there who are celebrating Sukkot are having a wonderful and joyous Sukkot. It is joyous for us on a number of levels, and we got our power back, got our water back. There's a lot of things to be joyful for during this season of Sukkot. However, it has been blisteringly cold here at night. Last night, it was down to 36 when I woke up at 3:30 in the morning. And yeah, it was cold. But hopefully wherever you are and whoever you're with, you're having a wonderful and joyous Sukkot. And make sure to tune in for a drosh on each of these various feast days and Moedim. And we'll have that teaching or drosh about 2 weeks or so before the actual feast day or Moedim occurs, so that you'll have time to learn all about it and get prepared for it. Now, if you have any prayer requests or announcements that you would like to have announced live on air, make sure to have those in to us by Thursday evening at the latest, because we do go live on Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, if you would, please join us in a moment of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with humble hearts and open minds, and just praise for all that you have blessed us with. We lift up the nation of Israel, your holy land, to your remembrance and your guidance and your protection, Father. Be with those in the nation of Israel. Be with the Israeli Defense Forces as they fight against the evil that surrounds them and just wants to wipe them off the map. Guide them and protect them, Father. And we lift up to your remembrance all those who still may be in a hostage situation, that you would protect them and show them the way that they should go, both in being released and how they should deal with their captors, Father. And we just ask for your protection over them. We praise you for all that you have blessed us with here in the area during all this disaster. We praise you for having plenty of food and plenty of help and assistance. It has been more than we could ask for. Our cup certainly runneth over, Father, and we praise your holy name for that. We ask that you guide us as we go through this next week, that we would be a light to your name and bring glory and honor to your remembrance. For all this we ask in your holy and heavenly name. Amen. And now, back to our liturgy. Blessed are you, O Yahweh our God, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yeshua. He walked among us, filled with your Spirit. The only one who ever perfectly fulfilled your Torah. He healed the sick and raised the dead. The multitudes of our people sought his touch. He taught as no man taught. With authority he brought forth the treasures of the Torah. How the children sought him. The lepers he touched and made clean. how the despised and outcast found love and release from their sin. How the hypocrites feared him, whose words uncovered their sin. Despised and rejected, acquainted with grief, he bore the sins of Israel. All we like sheep have gone astray, turned every one to his own way. Our iniquities were laid upon the king, the sins of the world his burden to bear. He rose from the dead and opened the way to life everlasting. Praise his name. We are in him. His spirit empowers. New life is ours with joy and peace. Blessed are you, O Yahweh our God, who has given us Messiah our King. For the sake of our Master Yeshua and his merit and virtues, may the sayings of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be favorable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. Avinu Shabashamayim Yikadesh Shimcha Tavo Mehuteha Yasa Retzonecha Ba'aretz Ka'asher Na'asa Vashamayim. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Let thy kingdom come, let thy will be done, as on earth, so as in heaven. Ten lanu hayom, lechem hukenu. Usalach lanu, erashmatenu ka asher. Sulechim anachnu, la asher ashmulanu. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Ve'al tevienu lidei masa, ki im hatzilenu min hara. Ki lacha, hamamlacha, wahagavura, wahatifaret, le'olame, olamim. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. None can compare to you, O Yahweh, and nothing compares to your creation. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Your mercy endures throughout all generations. Yahweh is king. Yahweh was king. Yahweh shall be king throughout all time. May Yahweh grant his people mercy. May Yahweh bless his people with peace. Proclaim Yahweh's greatness with me. Let us exalt him together. And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forth, Moses would say, Arise, O Yahweh, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you. For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Blessed be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel. All right, and tonight's Torah portion is going to be Exodus chapter 33, verse 12 through chapter 34, verse 26. And we'll give you just a moment to find that in your preferred translation if you would like to read along with us at home. Exodus chapter 33, verse 12 through chapter 34, verse 26. And Moshe said to Yahweh, See, you are saying to me, Bring up this people, but you have not made known to me whom you would send with me, though you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my eyes. And now, please, if I have found favor in your eyes, please show me your way, and let me know you, so that I find favor in your eyes. And consider that this nation is your people. And he said, My presence does go, and I shall give you rest. And he said to him, If your presence is not going, do not lead us up from here. For how then shall it be known that I have found favor in your eyes, I and your people, except you go with us? Then we shall be distinguished, I and your people, from all the people who are upon the face of the earth. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Even this word you have spoken, I shall do, for you have found favor in my eyes, and I know you by name. Then he said, Please show me your esteem. And he said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I shall proclaim the name of Yahweh before you, and I shall favor him whom I favor, and I shall have compassion on him whom I have compassion. But he said, You are unable to see my face, for no man does see me and live. And Yahweh said, See, there is a place with me, and you shall stand on the rock, and it shall be, while my esteem passes by, that I shall put you in the cleft of the rock, and cover you with my hand while I pass by. Then I shall take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones, and I shall write on these tablets the words that were on the first tablets which you broke. And be ready in the morning. Then you shall come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself to me there on the top of the mountain. And let no man come up with you, and let no man be seen in all the mountain, and let not even the flock or the herd feed in front of that mountain. And he cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones. Then Moshe rose early in the morning and went up Mount Sinai, as Yahweh had commanded him. And he took 2 tablets of stone in his hand, and Yahweh came down in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name Yahweh. And Yahweh passed, And Yahweh passed before him and proclaimed, Yahweh, Yahweh, an El compassionate and showing favor, patient and great in loving commitment and truth, watching over loving commitment for thousands, forgiving crookedness and transgression and sin, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the 3rd and the 4th generation. And Moshe hurried and bowed himself toward the earth and did obeisance and said, If now I have found favor in your eyes, O Yahweh, I pray, let Yahweh go on in our midst, even though we are a stiff-necked people, and forgive our crookedness and our sin, and take us as your inheritance. And he said, See, I am making a covenant. Before all your people I am going to do wonders, such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahweh. For what I am doing with you is awesome. Guard what I command you today. See, I am driving out from before you the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Guard yourself, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land where you are going, lest it be a snare in your midst. But break down their slaughter places, and smash their pillars, and cut down their Asherim. For you do not bow yourselves to another mighty one, for Yahweh, whose name is jealous, is a jealous El, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they whore after their mighty ones, and slaughter to their mighty ones. And one of them invites you, and you eat of his slaughterings, and you take of his daughters for your sons, and his daughters whore after their mighty ones, and make your sons whore after their mighty ones. Do not make a molded mighty one for yourselves. Guard the festival of Matzot. For 7 days you eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, in the appointed time of the new moon of Aviv. Because in the new moon of Aviv you came out from Mitzrayim. Every one opening the womb is mine, and every male firstborn among your livestock, whether bull or sheep. But the firstborn of a donkey you ransom with a lamb, and if you do not ransom, then you shall break his neck. Every firstborn of your sons you shall ransom, and they shall not appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you work, but on the 7th day you rest. In plowing time and in harvest you rest. And perform the festival of Shavuot for yourselves, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year. 3 times in the year all your men are to appear before the Master Yahweh, the Elohim of Yisrael. For I dispossess nations before you, and shall enlarge your borders, and let no one covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahweh your Elohim 3 times in the year. Do not slay the blood of my slaughtering with leaven, and do not let the slaughtering of the festival of the Pesach remain until morning. Bring the first of the firstfruits of your land to the house of Yahweh your Elohim. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Baruch atah Yahweh, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam betukenu, Baruch atah Yahweh, noten ha-Torah. Amen. This is the Torah which Moses placed before the children of Israel. It is in accord with Yahweh's command by the hand of Moses. It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Lord, to you, and we shall come. Renew our days as of old. Et haim hi, lama hazim kimba, veto meheha meushar, neraheha darchenoam, v'chol nativoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai, Elehawe nashuva. Hadesh, Hadesh Amenu, Hadesh Amenu, Kekedem. Blessed are you, O Yahweh our God, King of the universe, who has chosen faithful prophets to speak words of truth. Amen. All right, and tonight's Haftorah portion is going to be Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 18 through chapter 39, verse 16. And one more time, we'll give you just a moment to find that in your preferred translation at home. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 18 through chapter 39, verse 16. And it shall be on that day, on the day when Gog comes against the land of Israel, declares the Master Yahweh, that my wrath shall come up in my face. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath I have spoken. On that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all the creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall fall to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the Master Yahweh. The sword of each one being against his brother, and I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstones, fire and sulfur, on him and on his bands, and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and you shall say, Thus said the Master Yahweh, See, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and shall turn you around and lead you on, and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north, and bring you against the mountains of Israel, and shall strike the bow out of your left hand, and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Israel you shall fall, you and all your bands and the peoples who are with you. To the birds of prey of every sort and to the beasts of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the Master Yahweh. And I shall send fire upon Magog and on those who live undisturbed in the coastlands. And they shall know that I am Yahweh. And I shall make my set-apart name known in the midst of my people Yisrael, and not let my set-apart name be profaned any more. And the nations shall know that I am Yahweh, the set-apart one in Yisrael. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares the Master Yahweh. This is the day of which I have spoken, and those who inhabit the cities of Yisrael shall go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, the bows and arrows, the clubs and spears. And they shall make fires with them for 7 years, and take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest, for with the weapons they make fire. And they shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the Master Yahweh. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a place for a burial site there in Israel, the valley of those passing by east of the sea, and stopping those passing by, because there they shall bury Gog and all his crowd, and shall call it the valley of Hamon Gog. And the house of Israel shall bury them for 7 new moons in order to cleanse the land. And all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the Master Yahweh. And they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, burying those who are passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. At the end of 7 new moons they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land, and when anyone sees a man's bones, he shall set up a sign beside it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon Gog. And also a city named Hamona shall be there, so they shall cleanse the land. Blessed are you, O Yahweh our God, King of the universe, who has given us the living word in Messiah Yeshua. Blessed are you, O Yahweh, giver of the renewed covenant. Amen. And finally, tonight's Brit Hadashah portion is going to be Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 14. A section I really think is appropriate for this time of year, and once you read it or hear it, you'll know exactly why that is so appropriate. But we'll give you just a moment to find that in your preferred translation at home. Luke chapter 2, verses 1 through 14. And it came to be in those days that a decree went out from Caesar Augustus for all the world to be registered. This took place as a first registration while Quirinius was governing Syria. And all were going to be registered, each one to his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth to Yehuda, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Miriam, who was engaged to him, being pregnant. And it came to be that while they were there, the days were filled for her to give birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him up, and laid him down in a feeding trough, because there was no room for them in a lodging place. And in the same country there were shepherds living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And look, a messenger of Yahweh stood before them, and the esteem of Yahweh shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. And the messenger said to them, Do not be afraid, for look, I bring you good news of great joy, which shall be to all people. Because there was born to you today in the city of David a Savior, who is Messiah, the Master. And this is the sign to you. You shall find a baby wrapped up, lying in a feeding trough. And suddenly there was with the messenger a crowd of the heavenly host, praising Elohim and saying, Esteem to Elohim in the highest, and on earth peace among men with whom he is pleased. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu hadavar ha'emet, v'chaye olam betukenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten ha-brit hadashah. Blessed are you, O Yahweh our God, King of the universe, who gave to us the word of truth and planted life everlasting in our midst. Blessed are you, O Yahweh, giver of the renewed covenant. Amen. So that concludes tonight's service portion of it. And like we said at the very beginning, we're not going to be having a drosh or a teaching right now. we're just going to be basically going over talking about our experience during this whole Hurricane Helene disaster that hit us and what we went through, what we learned, some various things like that. So if you don't want to stay, that's fine. We completely understand. We'll be starting up regular teachings and episodes starting 2 weeks from now on November 1st with the resumption of our Godhead series. But for the rest of the remainder of this stream, we're going to be talking about just what went on during the whole Hurricane Helene disaster and things like that. But so, as many of you know, the real disaster part for us here in Western North Carolina hit on September 27th, that Friday morning. And I woke up and actually, as bad as it sounds, I actually slept through the high winds and stuff like that and trees falling in the woods around us. I slept right through it. But anyways, I woke up and my kids immediately told me that, some trees were down and there's a tree down the road and things like that. So we went out and looked at everything and walked up and down the road in the community and checked on some of the neighbors, make sure they were okay. And then I came back to the house, got my stuff on, and immediately me and my oldest son went out to start chopping trees and removing them from the roadways. And my younger three stayed here at the house while we did that. But there's some in the community who are, let's say, wiser in years. So they sometimes need an ambulance to be called upon. And we wanted to make sure that ambulances could get in and out. We had no power when I woke up that Friday morning on the 27th, but the dishwasher had completed its cycle overnight, and my coffee pot was set to go off at 5:30 in the morning. It had already completely brewed, so power went off about sometime after that. But after me and my son got out and started clearing trees, we only had an axe. I'm not a small engine guy, so my chainsaw, it doesn't work, and when I do get it to work, it doesn't last long because I'm not good at keeping small engines running. So we're using an axe and he's helping. And one of my other neighbors who I'd never met before either, he took pity on us and he brought his chainsaws down there. So me and him started cutting up trees all up and down the road. And we cleared out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 trees that fell down across the road, blocking the path. There was 2 more leaning on the power lines that we didn't mess with because we didn't know if the lines were charged at that point or how dangerous it was. So we just left those. You can still get cars in and under them. They were just leaning on the power lines. But yeah, that's what our Friday, that 27th, looked like. And at that point, we really did not have any idea the magnitude of the disaster that happened here in the area. Several days leading up to this, we had already gotten a little bit of wind, but a lot of rain from Hurricane Helene that had made it up our way. So the ground was extremely saturated. And that Friday morning, or Thursday night, Friday morning, when the winds finally came in, it just took the trees down. And a lot of the trees that came down, I noticed, were green. They weren't dead. They were green trees, which was even weirder to me, but it is what it is. I guess they had more leaves on them that would caught the wind more. I'm not really sure, but yeah, that's what our Friday looked like. And eventually we started hearing on the news and from other people about how bad it was. And people in this area really had no idea and had no preparation for anything like this. In years past, whenever we got the effects of a hurricane, it was, an exceptional amount of rain, more rain than usual. And that would be back to about the extent of our hurricane interactions coming from the Atlantic or from the Gulf, stuff like that. Maybe in the winter, get a little bit more extra snow, but nothing like this. The river, who is right down below me, is called the French Broad River. And it was at a record high during the flood for Hurricane Helene here. I said the biggest flood that had been since Hurricane Helene was in 1916. They were calling it like a 100 years flood. It was so high that the old town I grew up in was covered in water. And no one really expected for the river to be at that magnitude because we'd never really experienced something like this in the area. We weren't used to that. So a lot of people, they might have moved ground just to get out of the way of a little bit of extra rain, maybe a little high on the river, but we never expected to be like it was. And it was so destructive. Entire communities were wiped out. There's a place around here called Chimney Rock that just does not exist anymore. It was that massive. Other entire neighborhoods were just simply washed away. Biltmore Forest here in the Asheville area, it's almost destroyed too. There was a beautiful, I mean, whether you like McDonald's or not, there was a wonderfully beautiful McDonald's there in Biltmore Forest, and it had a grand piano in the McDonald's of all things. It was a nice McDonald's, I'll put it that way. But it's been destroyed because it just come through and flooded the entire McDonald's. I heard it almost got over top of that building, that the river had gotten up that high. And there's a plant that made PVC piping down near the river, totally got washed away. I mean, before you'd drive down River Road and you'd go by this PVC plant and you'd see out in their yard all the PVC pipe that they had produced. It was bundled up in pallets, secured down, all that stuff, and big rolls of some of the piping they produced, and it washed all that away. And that Saturday after it happened, I was walking along the railroad tracks down where my uncle lives, and you could see these pallets of PVC pipe still bundled together. I mean, dozens of PVC pipes still bundled together had been washed miles down river. Big pipe too, some of the 3, 4, 5 inch PVC pipe that they had sitting there in their yard. It was bad. As far as the river goes, it was bad. Some of the things that got washed away made the waters just absolutely toxic to be around, work in. And then it went in that mud that got washed along with the river. And once the floodwaters went down, that mud stayed by, and then it dried out, and then the workers got to working in it. That toxic mud made things so much bad too. But here at our house, in our little community, we lucked out. We were very blessed with the protection from the storm. We had no trees fall on our property. As far as the grass part goes, the woods that surround us, there is trees down all over the place, some fairly big trees, but they never came out of the tree line. They fell right down in the forest where they're not even in the way, much less damaging anything. So we were very, very blessed about that. Our power cut off, like I said, that Thursday night or Friday morning. So we didn't have any water because we have well water. And so we had a little bit extra water sitting by. So we had a couple of days there that we were able to make it without water. And when the power went off, my boys knew that, get the important things out of the refrigerator, grab the bags of ice out of the freezer, put them in the cooler. And they did a good job on that part. They got the cooler packed with plenty of ice in it, or all the ice we had anyways. And so we had the milk and, of course, my coffee creamer. Got to have that. And things like that we were going to use in the cooler, stay cold. And then, of course, the refrigerator started getting warmer, so we ate everything out of the refrigerator we could that we couldn't put in the cooler, and we didn't want to go to waste. So we ate good as far as the refrigerator stuff was concerned. And then the freezer upstairs started going out, so we started cooking everything out of that. And then the freezer downstairs was going out, and we started cooking everything out of that. And since we eat kosher, we don't eat pork bacon. So we had a huge supply of turkey bacon down in our downstairs freezer because we found it on sale at a good price, and I just stocked up on it. But man, that freezer started going out, and we started frying up turkey bacon like you wouldn't believe. 4 or 5 days straight, we ate turkey bacon. The boys would be outside on the charcoal grill, grilling things up. I'd be inside on my little propane camp stove cooking things up and trying to eat everything out of the freezers and the refrigerator. We ate like kings for 4 or 5 days. So we were really blessed about that. We did end up having to throw a lot of stuff away that we couldn't get to in time, but that's okay. We were still provided for. And like I said, just overly blessed. So yeah. And then, let's see, 2 or 3 days after we lost power, my father actually brought me a propane stove that you could hook a 20-pound cylinder to and cook on. It had 4 burners on top and an oven, just a standard range. So one of the things we got out of our bottom freezer before it went bad was a lamb roast that we were going to save up for one of the feast days. And we didn't want it to go to waste. So I threw that lamb roast in there, and during the whole hurricane disaster, we had lamb roast here. So we were very blessed with that. Turned out to be very good, actually. But being blessed with that gas range that allows us to cook the lamb roast, I cooked Italian bread. We made biscuits. That was a real blessing. So we ate good and ate even better with the addition of that gas range. The response around here was absolutely magnificent. And, FEMA, after a couple days, finally got here. And the government response in the local area was here a little bit before that. But the biggest help that we had here in the area was as neighbors helping neighbors. And the response there was absolutely magnificent. Here in my community, instead of driving and wasting gas that was a rare resource during this time, I would walk up and down the community, just check on everybody. And as I passed people, they would check on us. And it was absolutely wonderful. If anybody needed anything, somebody could get it. And one of the local churches down here, they got their power back because they were on a different system, but they started giving out free water for anybody who needed water. And our water was out. So we started going up to this little Baptist church and filling up jars and a bucket for drinkable water. That allowed us to have drinking water and also some washing water to cook or wash pots and pans with. For flush water, we eventually had to go down to a local creek and dip it out of there for flush water. But about 50 yards up from where we was dipping it out, there was a cow pasture, so we knew you don't drink that water, but it was plenty good enough for flush water. But that's one of the things I learned is, make sure you have a source of water. And we didn't have a generator, which is something I'm thinking about investing in, because we were, up until now in this area, if the power goes off, it's off for maybe 12 hours or at most like 24 hours. And this is even during the winter when it snows and ices. We don't have extended periods of power outage. So I haven't really been able to justify getting a generator until now. So now I'm really considering trying to find a dual fuel 7,500 watt generator or just have on hand in case something like this happens again. But yeah, definitely make sure you've got a source of water, and whether you have to pump it, dip it out of some creek or something, and then make sure you have a source of being able to have drinking water, whether that's through a filter or through a clean source. Definitely know these things beforehand if you can. One of my neighbors who has medical issues and he can't live without electricity. So he's got one of those whole home generators that kick in when the main power goes out. And he allowed us to come down there and get all the drinking water we wanted too. So we had multiple sources of drinking water. And raising 4 kids, especially 4 boys, I always buy in bulk at the members club places, the Sam's, Costco, things like that, right? So right before this happened, I'd just gotten a 50-pound bag of rice. It was just sitting there ready for the hurricane to come through, I guess it was. So we had that, and then we had plenty of dry beans, which we always stay stocked up on. I make a lot of bread. So I had a 5-gallon bucket of bread flour sitting there. we had plenty to eat. We were already blessed before it hit. We were blessed after it hit. It's just so many blessings that hit us. That's the other thing. Make sure you've got a stock of food to last 2 or 3 days. That's something I always try to have on hand myself. But 2 or 3 weeks is a different story. Then you got to go out, and after that's 2 or 3 days of food runs out, you got to go out and start, making other plans. I knew it wouldn't last long enough to plant a garden and raise crops. They would have everything back in order before raise a garden. Plus, it's too late in the year now to really start a garden anyways. So that wasn't an option, but raising your own food, that was definitely a long-term solution there as well. Learn how to garden, have a clean source of water. You can get a generator, I guess. And that way, even if something like this never happens, it had been prepared anyways. And that's the other thing I really started thinking about too. When you listen to the radio or you watch TV, you see these commercials for gold and silver. And they always sell it like, if things go bad and if the economy goes down or, whatever comes up, you're going to want gold, the surety of gold and silver. No. Going through this disaster really taught me that, if things were really to hit the fan, you need bartering. I mean, during this time, if I needed food to eat, then other people wouldn't really want gold and silver. They would want, if I had some extra rice and they had water, I could trade rice for water. That's how it would really work. You need extra supplies of stuff to barter with. And plus, a lot of the places around here, the stores, after a few days when they were finally able to get back up and running, because think about it, the grocery stores around here, the Walmarts, the convenience stores, they lost their power too. That was so massive. So all of their frozen and perishable stuff went out. And when they lost power and they were finally able to get back up and running, they didn't have the ability to process credit cards, so they only took cash. And that was another hard thing. A lot of people, myself included, don't really carry cash on them anymore. So then it was a run on the ATMs. And if I went into the grocery store to get groceries and paid with a gold coin, the cashier would have looked at me funny. They wouldn't know what to do with a gold coin. Some of these cashiers have trouble counting back change from a 20, much less try handing them a gold coin, right? So, yeah, gold and silver, no. You need, what they call it, heirloom seeds to plant with, food to trade with, water to trade with, firewood to trade with, stuff like that, propane. That's something else I learned too. When I was thinking about future preparation, stuff like that, there was a time when we couldn't get gas around here. So, and it came back in spurts in different areas as different areas got restored and back up. But in the main little town that I'm closest to, it was a few days before they actually got gas back. And then when they did, everybody was making a run on the gas stations and you had to wait in line for a long time, things like that. So I was thinking about stocking up for preparation of next time. And I learned that gas does go bad. It degrades after a while. You get like maybe 6 months of gas storage before it starts degrading, starts going into a type of liquid you don't want to run through your gas engines. But propane, on the other hand, propane will not degrade. So that's a benefit. And it's another reason I'm wanting to find a dual fuel generator where I can do either gas or propane. I can stock up the propane and just leave it sitting there. Years from now, before I need it, it'll still be good. So that's another thing I learned. And one of the biggest things I learned is that ever since June, I've been doing a lot of the taking care of my boys and raising them on my own. And during this whole disaster, it's really taught me that, Yahweh was right when he saw Adam and he said, it is not good for man to be alone, that I'm going to make him a helpmate. And during this whole disaster with the boys, it really made me realize, how much a man does need a helpmate. And I wished I had one at the time to be there and help me through all this. But even without that, I was still extremely blessed. Raising kids during something like this is another stress thing as well. You know, most of the time, I'm the kind of dad who tells them to get outside, you know, go ride your bike, scrape your knee, climb a tree, things like that. You know, go learn those little life experiences that may hurt in the moment, but you'll be stronger for it in the end, right? It's not, we're actually going to hurt them, but during this time, the hospitals, they are without water. And of course, with everything happening with everybody in the area, the hospitals are going to be probably at maximum capacity anyways. So I was really not wanting to go to the hospital. I was being a little bit more stringent on what the boys could get into. And they had to go play outside all the time because there was no power inside, and had to watch what they were eating and stuff like that too. It's like, yes, son, I know that comes from the refrigerator, but we cannot eat that now. Not during this time. So we were very fortunate, very blessed not to have any kind of sickness that arose. Everything stayed clean and hygienic as much as possible. I watched what they were eating so they wouldn't get sick and stuff like that or have to run to the hospital. So we were blessed on that, but that was definitely a stressor during all that as well. But yeah, that's just another point. But we finally got our power back on last Wednesday, and that would be, bring that back up. Now I'll be back on October 9th. We were out without power for 13 days. And there was some benefits to that too. I really, during this time, I tried to stress the point to have my kids learn appreciation and gratitude for the little things in life that they have, and not to take things for granted, like running water, lights that you can flick on with the light switch. Just to be appreciative for the things they have and understand that they could have a whole lot less just like that. So hopefully that really sank in with them. Some good hard work, clearing out those trees and hauling water back and forth to flush the toilets with, just to have flush water. So got some, hopefully some appreciation for the finer little things in life, and also some good hard work in there. So try to make a good experience out of it as well. And also so they could see how lucky and blessed we were being so protected and provided for, and other people just down the road who may have lost everything and didn't have anything. So I'm really hoping that sank in with them as well. Like I said earlier, the biggest response, the most helpful response, was from neighbors helping neighbors. In this area, we're good old mountain folk, and we're used to helping each other out anyways. So when stuff like this hits, it's almost like a natural reaction to start helping each other. It's to kind of get mean at some of the imports that don't have that mindset yet. But I think going through this with all of us natives maybe help change their perspective as well, and kind of get them on board with the mountain way of life. But yeah, the biggest help, most efficient help, was neighbors helping neighbors. And that was day one, minute one. It wasn't 2 or 3 days until FEMA got here, the government got here. It was instantaneous, helping each other. And there was actually some people from down in Charlotte, some of the racing people and some of the football people, they took their own private helicopters and flew into the airport. And of course, all the regulations and protocols, they were telling them, you know, hey, we're supposed to do this, supposed to do that. And these pilots, these people had these private helicopters, said, you know, pretty much told them where to stick it. They were landing, they were going to come and help people. And that was really good, because some of the interstates around here, because of landslides, had actually been blocked off. Lots of communities had been separated because of landslides, washed out bridges, things like that. So the only way they could get supplies in or get help that they needed was with these helicopters and airdrops. I mean, the disaster was that bad in some of these areas. And then finally the military came in, the National Guard, and you got to see the Chinooks and the Hueys and things like that flying over. And we even seen an Osprey come over one time. During my time in Iraq, I don't think I've seen as many helicopters fly over my house as I did during this whole disaster thing with the National Guard flying over. But I thought it was kind of neat. I just my heart goes out to those veterans who may have had bad experiences during war, especially like the Vietnam War, like one of my neighbors is, and he's got bad PTSD sometimes. And I know things like helicopters flying over may not be the best for those situations. So they stay in my thoughts and prayers as well. But I thought it was kind of cool that, yeah, some of these areas, they got so cut off that airdrops was some of the only way they could get into them. And some that were so bad that there was a group that came in and they were hauling things up. They couldn't get in with cars or trucks or ATVs even. So they took pack mules. No joke. They loaded up pack mules to take things to people and get them help. It was that awesome. The response that we got here was absolutely great. There was people from Canada came down, the electric group came down to help with the power grid, things like that. And all over the US, the New York Fire Department came down to lend a hand. There was law enforcement agencies from, I don't know where, all over the Southeast in the country came over to lend a hand with our law enforcement. It was awesome to see the response that came out. Well, like I said, the biggest and most efficient response was that neighbors helping neighbors. And if something like that happens where you're at, that's going to be one of the biggest helps. So before disaster hits, before anything happens, that's another thing I learned. Make sure to get out, meet your neighbors, know who they are, know what kind of special conditions they might have, where they might have like a newborn, where they might be an elderly couple, things like that. So that you would know when disaster hits that, how can I go and help this person, or this person over here may need my attention first, or things like that. But just get out, meet your neighbors, try to be on a good relationship with your neighbors. So if you do need to help each other out, you've already got that rapport built. That's the word I was looking for. You've got that rapport built before anything does happen. But anyways, my FEMA story, until that. I didn't have any cell phone service for several days. So the only communication I had outside was listening to the radio. FM radio, of all things, which is almost a dinosaur nowadays, but it was extremely useful during this time. That's the only way I could get any kind of news in. But listen to the radio. After a couple of days, FEMA finally got here and they started setting up. And for a long time, they started saying, if you're in the area and you've been impacted by the storm, and if you're listening to this right now, you most likely have in some way, in some minor way, right? You should go apply for FEMA assistance. Okay, fine. Like I said, my house wasn't damaged. We had plenty of food to eat. We didn't have any power and therefore no water. But they said go apply anyways. So I went on the FEMA website. I applied, not for the loan, just for the assistance, right? I ain't doing loans. But went and applied. And it was like 2 days later, they came back and said, nope, you're denied. Okay, no problem. Been overly blessed anyways, don't really need FEMA assistance. But if they were going to write me a check, I would buy a generator, right? So anyways, like after 2 days after I applied, they wrote me back and said, nope, you're denied. Okay, whatever. Then my power comes back on. Then I get a message from FEMA saying I've been approved for FEMA assistance. If I want to go live in a hotel somewhere, I can go live in a hotel. They already know about me. Oh my gosh. And this was like a week after I applied. I already been denied, already got my power back on and was good to go at that point. Then FEMA says that, they'll pay for me a hotel room. But, it's so ridiculous. It's, I didn't need a hotel room. I still had a fully functional standing house just during the interim. I had no power, no water, and they could have fixed that by a simple generator, even bringing me one to, borrow for a time. But it's just ridiculous how government works sometimes. And no one from the government ever came up in our community checking on us. It was neighbors checking on neighbors. I got my power back on Wednesday night. Thursday during the day, there was a game warden who was helping out the local law enforcement. Game warden comes up, knocks on my door, says, "Hey, you okay? You need anything?" I'm I'm like, no, my power came back on last night. This is after 2 weeks, no power, no water. Finally, Uncle Sam comes, checks on me. Yeah, it's wow. And we were one of the easier places to get to. We weren't nearly as damaged as some of these other places. I mean, hopefully government was responding to these more severe places, and that's the reason why they didn't get to me in before then. But I guess it's the principle of it. They didn't come and check on any of us until after we were back up and running with power. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience there. And then after power came back on, we go try and get the house back in order, trying to get all the clothes caught up, and of course, get all the linens and blankets, stuff like that washed up, everything cleaned up. The refrigerator and freezer, since it got completely wiped out with no power, that gave me the prime opportunity to go in and deep clean those things because they were not cold and they were not full of food. So the freezers and refrigerator got a good cleaning over that. That's a plus. And just want to say thank you to anyone out there who's watching who did offer assistance. Really do appreciate that. There was multiple offers from friends and family for me to come over to their house and do laundry, come over to their house and get showers. I had multiple offers for borrowing someone's generator, which was fine. I was overly blessed with the response. So if you're out there watching this, I want to say thank you for anyone who has offered to do that. And for those of you of the Messianic mindset, you might know about 119 Ministries. Someone found me on 119 Ministries and knew that this was going on in my area and didn't even know me. Just found me on 119 Ministries fellowship map and wrote me an email and said, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? And that was awesome. Just a complete stranger, a fellow Messianic believer writing, offering assistance. So we were very, very blessed. We did take advantage of some FEMA resources though. And one of the churches here, one of the bigger churches here in the area, they came and set up a distribution point for food, water, supplies, stuff like that. But they also came in with a laundry trailer so that you could drop off a load of laundry, come back 24 hours later, and your laundry would be clean. Wouldn't be folded, but it would be washed and dried. They also set up shower trailers there. So we did, I think, one load of laundry there, just to get me and the boys some clean clothes. And we also took advantage of their shower trailers. And when you're living in a house with 4 other guys, you haven't had a shower in a couple of days, it's it'll change your life. It'll change your world to get a hot shower after all that time. And yeah, makes life a lot better. So we did take advantage of some FEMA resources, but it is what it is. Like I said, going back, the main thing is neighbors helping neighbors. That's the biggest thing. So get out, meet your neighbors, get on a good response with them or have a good rapport with them before things happen so that you can help each other out. Make sure you have a supply of food that can last you, at least 2 or 3 days, if not longer. And don't buy this whole gold and silver thing. Go for the barter system. Be able to barter flour, water, sugar, rice, beans, things that people are actually going to need and want when things hit the fan. And also, stock up on propane because it does not degrade. So that's another big thing. And my big tanks, the 20-pound tanks, I actually use to refill my smaller camping tanks because I got an adapter. It's about $10, $11 on Amazon. I've had that for a while, but it came in use during this disaster because I could refill those smaller bottles off of the big bottles. And that was very helpful. So maybe something else to think about. And if you don't already, go camping just on a regular basis. Get out in summer 2 or 3 times a year, learn what it's like to live without the comforts that you normally live with. That's the big thing about Sukkot, I think. It's not really told to remember much except for the time in the wilderness when they came out of Egypt before they got into the promised land. But Sukkot really helps you to, endure life without the luxuries we normally have. You're sleeping in a temporary makeshift shelter. You're eating and sleeping outside, things like that. So go camping, enjoy Sukkot outdoors, learn these things for when a disaster does hit. You'll already have some of that experience, and you might already have some of the tools, like a tent, like a camping stove. I had a 1-burner, but you can get a 2-burner camping stove if you want to. I've got a propane heater that I can put on if things were cold during that time and keep my family warm. But go camping, use these skills, practice when you don't have to, so that when you do need to, you'll know how to use them. That's something that really helped us too, because we're a big camping family. We enjoy camping. So we're kind of used to roughing it, as it were. So that really helped, and something I would advise everyone out there to do. But yeah, those are some of the main points. That always understand how blessed you are and be appreciative for it. Stock up on propane because it doesn't degrade. Have at least 2 or 3 days of food storage. Be on good terms with your neighbors, stuff like that. And there's probably a lot of other stuff. We are streaming to Rumble, BitChute, and YouTube. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or any comments, and we'll try to respond to those. But I think that's about where we're going to wrap things up here. Just wanted to go over some things that we experienced during this time, some things that we learned. And also, just want to ask everyone to keep those in prayer that were extremely affected around here. Those who lost everything. They lost their homes, their jobs, their businesses, their entire neighborhood sometimes, their towns even sometimes. I mean, the disaster here is unlike anything we've ever seen. And it's something we're not prepared for, because hurricanes in the past, we've gotten maybe a little bit extra wind, maybe a little bit extra rain, but the mountains have really killed previous hurricanes before they got into, disastrous consequences by the time it got up to our area. Not this time. This time it came hard, it came heavy, and it gave us 2 black eyes. Now, even if we were prepared for it, we'd still be in a lot of trouble. But I think because we did not know or expect what it was going to do, that it made it so much worse. So yeah. If anyone has any comments, questions, or concerns, and you're watching this after the live stream, you can write us at team@godhonesttruth.com, and we will get to you as soon as we can. We're trying to get caught up on emails now. Emails back up when you don't have access to email. So we're trying to get all that cleared out, as well as everything else, but we will get to it as soon as we can. That's something else that also made me think about the future as well. I've been wanting to have a physical location here in the area, and during this response and during this disaster, just about every Christian church you could think of was doing a food supply or distribution point drop off. It got to the point where people on the radio, the host, when people would call in asking for help where they could go get stuff, the host would say, well, just drive down the road, and just about any church you go to or pass by, they'll have stuff there, because they were getting stuff in all the time. And it was always like a Christian church, a Baptist church, a Methodist church, things like that. And that really made me want to get even more on board with getting a physical location for a Messianic fellowship up and going. I would love to have been out and been able to help people like that at a Messianic location. I mean, nothing against the Baptists and Methodists and everybody else, but we'd like to do our part as well. So even more wanting to have a physical location here in the area, but hopefully we can make that happen sooner rather than later. We'll just have to see and still be in prayer for. But yeah, I haven't seen any questions or comments come in on the chat. So we'll go ahead and just wrap this up for tonight. And starting 2 weeks from now, we'll get back into regular droshes, regular teachings. But in a moment, we'll be doing the Aaronic benediction. So if you have anyone there that you'd like to have gathered next to you, go ahead and start gathering them together. But next week, we will not be having a stream because we've already got things scheduled and pre-planned. So we're not able to move that around as much as we would like to. I know we've been off for a month, but things have already been pre-planned. And we will still have the Torah portion, half Torah portion, and Brit Hadashah portion like always. We'll have those recorded and uploaded for your benefit, but there will not be a live stream or a drosh next week. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and do tonight's Aaronic benediction. Yivarikah Yahweh wa yishmerecha. Yair Yahweh panah elecha vihunecha. Yisah Yahweh panah elecha veyasim lecha shalom. May Yahweh bless you and guard you. May Yahweh make his face shed light upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up his face unto you and give you peace. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our apologies for not being back up and running in time for a drosh or a teaching. Like I said, that's going to be coming back up soon. We hope this Shabbat is a wonderful and restful Shabbat for you, not only for your body, but also for your mind and your spirit and your soul. We hope that you're going to have a wonderful Sukkot, a wonderful and joyous Sukkot, rather. And we hope this next week is filled with good food, good fortune, good family, good friends, good health, and good spirits. And until we meet again next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, Shabbat Shalom, and Shavua Tov.
Yaakov לכוון אלך באור בית יעקב לכוון אלך באור